Brandon never cared much about fashion. He was the kind of guy who'd throw on a hoodie, sneakers, and jeans no matter what the occasion was. Comfort over everything. He worked as a barista in a cozy cafe downtown, and the most he worried about was whether his shirt smelled like espresso beans or not. His girlfriend, Rochelle, however, was a different story. She was obsessed with style, always looking sharp, always matching, always scrolling through fashion blogs and Instagram influencers like it was her job. Lately, she'd been making subtle jabs about his appearance, laughing off his outfits and suggesting he try harder. At first, Brandon thought she was just being playful, but it kept going. "I mean, babe," she said one afternoon while fixing her eyeliner in the mirror, "I love you, but your closet is like stuck in 2010. He chuckled. "It's comfortable. What do you want me to wear? A leather jumpsuit?" Rochelle rolled her eyes. "No, just something that says you actually give a damn." That stung a little more than he expected. Brandon let the comment slide, but it followed him the rest of the day. The real jab came a few nights later when they were getting ready for a party her friend was hosting. Rochelle looked flawless in a silk green dress, her heels clicking across, the floor like confidence itself. Brandon showed up in a button-up he thought looked decent, with his usual worn sneakers. She sighed loud enough for him to hear. "Seriously, Brandon? You're not even trying." "What?" he frowned. "Whatever," she muttered. "Just don't stand next to me in pictures." That night, Brandon stood in the corner of the room nursing a beer while Rochelle mingled. Like she was born to be famous. Everyone there was polished, posed, perfect. Brandon felt like a background character in someone else's life. He went home that night feeling like dirt. Maybe he didn't care about fashion, but he cared about how Rochelle saw him. Her words made it clear. He wasn't enough. A week later, everything changed. It was a regular Monday morning. Rain pattered against the cafe windows, and Brandon was wiping down tables after the early rush. A woman came in, dressed in a long cream coat, oversized sunglasses, and boots that probably cost more than his rent. She stood at the counter, barely glancing at the menu. "You make that honey lavender latte here?" she asked. Brandon nodded. "Best in town." She smiled, but it was faint, like she was only half listening. "You ever modeled before?" He blinked. "What?" She tilted, her head taking him in from behind her sunglasses. "You've got a strong look, rough around the edges, real. We're casting for a new campaign, indie, raw style. You'd fit." He laughed, thinking she was joking. "Me? I wear the same 2 shirts every week." She pulled out a sleek black card and slid it across the counter. "Name's Rosemary. I'm a talent scout for Zwei. Maybe you've heard of us?" Brandon didn't know squat about fashion brands, but even he had seen that name on billboards in the city. "Come by the studio tomorrow," she said, scribbling something on the back of the card. "If you're serious or don't. Up to you." Then she turned and walked out into the rain like some kind of movie scene. Brandon stood frozen behind the counter, the card in his hand. He looked at it, then at the door she walked out of, still, swinging shut. Rochelle's voice echoed in his mind. "You're not even trying." Maybe it was time he did. The next day, Brandon found himself standing in front of a sleek glass building with Zwei spelled out in chrome letters above. The entrance. He hadn't told Rochelle. Part of him still wasn't sure if this was real, or if he was about to walk into some prank show and get roasted on national TV. He wore his cleanest hoodie, black jeans, and boots that hadn't seen daylight since his cousin's wedding. He still didn't feel stylish, but it was the best he could do. Inside, everything was white, silver, and way too clean. A woman at the front desk gave him a curious once-over before calling someone on the phone. "She's here," she said into the receiver. Then to Brandon, "Wait there." A few minutes later, Rosemary appeared like she'd walked straight off, a magazine cover. Today, she had on a black turtleneck, long plaid skirt, and boots that looked freshly polished. "You showed up," she said, sounding more surprised than impressed. Brandon gave a half shrug. Yeah, well, figured it couldn't hurt. She smirked. We'll see. Follow me. She led him through a maze of hallways into a bright studio. There were lights, backdrops, racks of clothes, and a photographer who glanced at Brandon like he was inspecting produce at a market. A few other people were prepping a tall blonde guy in leather and a girl who looked like she hadn't eaten carbs since middle school. Strip, Rosemary said casually, flipping through a rack of clothes. Brandon blinked. Sorry. What? Your shirt and jeans. We need to see your frame. Relax. You'll survive. Awkward as hell, he peeled off his hoodie and shirt. Someone handed him a fitted jacket, then slim-cut trousers. Once dressed, he stepped in front of the camera, feeling like a total imposter. Don't smile, the photographer barked. Look bored. Look like you've seen everything and hated most of it. Brandon didn't need to fake that. The shoot lasted less than 10 minutes, but afterward, Rosemary was talking to someone in hushed tones, glancing at Brandon like she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. Then she walked over, arms folded. You're not just some cute coffee boy, she said. Thanks? She rolled her eyes. You've got what we call underdog allure. It's rare. We're doing a launch next month. Anti-glam, anti-elitism, real faces. You're it. Brandon blinked again. Like, you want me in an ad? Nodded. We want you to be the face of the whole line. He didn't even know what to say. It felt like the universe had just flipped upside down. A week ago, his girlfriend couldn't even look at his sneakers without cringing. Now a fashion brand wanted him on billboards? Do I need to sign something? Yeah, but we'll handle that later, she said, walking off again. Come back Thursday, we'll do fittings, and for God's sake stop washing your hair. With bar soap. Brandon left the building dazed, holding a folder full of papers and instructions. His phone buzzed just as he reached the subway. A text from Rochelle. Can you pick up almond milk on the way home? Also, those shoes you wore yesterday were embarrassing. He stared at the message for a moment, then slid the phone back in his pocket. Back at the apartment, Rochelle was curled up on the couch with a face mask on, swiping through fashion TikToks like usual. She looked up at him, then did a double take. Wait, did you get new pants? Brandon nodded casually. Kinda. They look weirdly good on you. He shrugged. Thanks. She narrowed her eyes. Where were you today? Out, he said, heading to the fridge. Rochelle wasn't used to short answers. She watched him like she was trying to figure out a riddle. I saw this model on my feed earlier, she said slowly. He looked kinda like you, but hotter. Brandon just smirked, pouring himself a glass of water. Maybe for once, he'd let her wonder. By Thursday, Brandon had gotten used to waking up with a strange feeling in his chest, nervous excitement. Maybe, or the slow burn of something changing. He told Rochelle he was picking up extra shifts at the cafe, which technically wasn't a lie. He just didn't mention the shift was from barista to brand model. At Zway's studio, everything felt 10 times more intense. There was a styling team waiting, designers hovering, and racks upon racks of bold, edgy clothes. They didn't want him polished. They wanted him raw, exactly how he was. Rosemary greeted him like they'd known each other for years. Good. You're early. That's rare in this industry, he shrugged. Just didn't want to screw it up. Too late, she said deadpan, then cracked a grin. Kidding. Let's get to work. A tall, wiry guy with sharp cheekbones introduced himself as Jonathan, the head stylist. He was the kind of man who could make a trash bag look like high fashion. Jonathan circled Brandon like a scientist with a test subject. He has that tired but defiant vibe, he said to no one in particular, like someone who's had his heart broken in an indie film. Rosemary nodded. Exactly. Brandon blinked. Is that a good thing? Very, Jonathan replied. Let's put him in the streetwear rage look. Ripped denim, sleeveless hoodie, gold chain. Yes, I'm feeling it. Soon, Brandon was back in front of the camera. But this time it felt different. He wasn't just standing there awkwardly. He was the mood. His expressions came naturally, half bored, half pissed off, eyes like he didn't care whether you liked him or not, and apparently that sold. Yes. The photographer shouted, "That's the one. Hold it. Don't smile. If you smile, I'll slap you with this reflector." At one point, they brought in another model to pose with him. She was tall, fierce, and moved like she was born to break hearts. Brandon figured he'd be invisible next to her, but when they saw the photos on screen, it was him who stood out. She was the accessory. He was the main event. When the shoot wrapped, Rosemary pulled him aside. Her tone was serious now. "I need you to understand something, Brandon. This campaign's going to blow up. You're not just another face. We're banking on your story, your vibe, your normalness. People are going to want to know everything about you." He scratched his neck. "So, should I delete my old tweets or something?" She laughed. "No, just be careful. The more visible you get, the more people think they own pieces of you. That includes people close to you." He didn't fully get what she meant. Not yet. By the time he got home, it was dark. Rochelle was already there, doing an unboxing video for her followers. Her voice was all fake happy and giggly, thanking some brand for sending her skincare. When she hung up, she noticed Brandon's hair. "Did you get a fade?" she asked, surprised. "You never get haircuts that sharp." He smirked. "Stylist said it suits my face." She raised a brow. "Stylist?" He sat down on the couch and grabbed the remote, just trying to look less like a joke, I guess. Rochelle seemed caught off guard. "That's good. I like this version of you." She said it like she was giving him permission to evolve, like he needed her validation to be someone worth looking at, but Brandon just nodded. "Cool." Later that night, as she scrolled through her phone, he caught her freezing for a second. She squinted at something, zoomed in. Her thumb paused mid-scroll. "Wait a second," she murmured. "What the hell?" She turned the phone toward him. It was a teaser ad for Zway's new campaign. His face, moody, shadowed, raw, was front and center. Rochelle stared at it like it had betrayed her. "Is this you?" Brandon kept his eyes on the TV. "Yeah." "Since when are you a model?" He shrugged. "Since I stopped trying to impress people who didn't think I was good enough." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then quietly, she asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked at her. Really looked. "Because you told me I wasn't stylish, and I believed you, until someone else didn't." The silence between them lasted longer than either expected. Rochelle just sat there, her phone still in hand, the image of Brandon, her boyfriend turned brand face, glowing on the screen like a joke fate was playing on her. She finally broke the silence. "I didn't mean it like that, you know." Brandon raised a brow, still calm. "Didn't mean what?" "All that stuff I said, about how you dress. I was just pushing you, trying to help." He gave a small, tired laugh. "You weren't helping. You were pointing out what I lacked every chance you got." She didn't reply right away, maybe because she knew he wasn't wrong. The next morning, Brandon woke up to a text from Rosemary. "Your image is going viral. Expect noise." Noise was an understatement. His DMs exploded. People were tagging him, resharing the photo, calling him that hot coffee guy and the realest face in fashion. Someone even made a TikTok edit of his one photo, set to moody music, with over 100K likes in a few hours. It was wild. He didn't tell Rochelle any of it. Let her find it like everyone else. That weekend, ZBUA threw a pre-launch event, a rooftop mixer with industry insiders, designers, stylists, and influencers. Rosemary insisted Brandon attend. He wasn't used to crowds like this. People dressed like walking art installations, sipping cocktails with gold flakes in them, dropping brand names like currency. Jonathan spotted him and waved him over. There's our diamond in the dust, Brandon chuckled. That what I am? You're what the fashion world's been craving. Someone who doesn't try. You just are. He was still trying to wrap his head around that when a familiar voice floated through the rooftop chatter. Brandon? He turned. It was Rochelle. She wore her usual influencer-perfect outfit, white crop top, beige blazer, high-waist trousers. But for the first time, she looked out of place. He blinked. What are you doing here? I got an invite. I'm working with a skincare brand. They're doing cross-campaigns. Her eyes flicked around, taking in the models, the photographers, the cameras flashing. Then her gaze locked on the large screen looping teaser shots from Zway's campaign, his face all over it. She looked back at him. This is your world now? He shrugged. Looks like it. She was quiet for a second, then softer. You look amazing, really. Thanks. I didn't know this was in you. He nodded. You never really looked. That hit her. She didn't say anything else, just stood there while someone gorgeous and clearly not from the cafe, seen, walked over and slipped an arm casually around Brandon's shoulder. Who's this? The woman asked. An old friend, Brandon replied. Rochelle's jaw tightened. Rosemary saved the moment, appearing behind him like she always did when things were about to get weird. Brandon, darling, the editor from Vogue wants to meet you. Now. He gave Rochelle a small nod. I gotta go. As he walked away, he could feel her staring at him, like she was seeing something that had been there all along, but never caught her attention until the world started applauding it. Later that night, she texted him, Can we talk? Just us? I saw it. Didn't reply. Instead, he tossed his phone on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling, realizing something strange. He didn't feel like the backup dancer in someone else's show anymore. He felt like the headline act, and he wasn't sure he wanted her backstage anymore. Brandon didn't reply to Rochelle's message, not because he was trying to be cold, he just didn't see the point anymore. The version of her he'd been holding on to didn't match who she really was. And now that the fog was clearing, he could finally see it. The following week moved fast. Zway's campaign launched officially, and Brandon's face was everywhere, on digital billboards, magazines, even bus ads. He saw himself on a building, downtown, and nearly dropped his coffee. The world suddenly had an opinion on him. Some called him a fresh, raw face in a plastic world, while others debated whether he was a real model or just a gimmick. But the buzz was real. Brands started reaching out. Sunglasses companies, indie designers, even a cologne deal. Rosemary played gatekeeper like a boss. You don't say yes to anyone unless it elevates you. Got it? She reminded him. He nodded. Got it. Still, the chaos around him didn't distract from the shift in his personal life. Rochelle had been quieter lately. No late-night rants about fashion. No passive-aggressive digs about his looks. In fact, she barely spoke unless spoken to. One evening, after another long day of fittings and interviews, Brandon walked into the apartment to find her sitting at the kitchen table, candles lit, dinner made. That hadn't happened ever. I made lasagna, she said with a soft smile. Your favorite. He dropped his keys on the counter slowly. What's the occasion? I just thought, maybe we could talk. He sat down, still in his ZWA hoodie and styled jeans. She hesitated, then started. I know I've been harsh. I guess I didn't realize how much I let my idea of style affect how I saw you. Brandon said nothing. He let her speak. You were always solid, Brandon. Always kind. But I got so caught up in this image, this influencer world, that I forgot real people don't need to look like walking catalogs to matter. He leaned back in his chair. But you still judged me like I did. She nodded, guilt in her eyes. I know. I think. Maybe I liked being the one who was ahead. The one who had something to teach you. But now the world's looking at you like you're some kind of revelation and... And what? I guess I feel like I lost you. Brandon swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. In some ways, she had lost him, but not because of fame or followers. You didn't lose me because I became something new, he said. You lost me when you didn't value who I was before any of this. Her eyes shimmered. I was wrong, about all of it, and if I could go back, you'd tell me I was stylish before the world did? Silence. She looked down, ashamed. I just want a chance to fix it. He didn't respond right away. Instead, he looked at her, the girl who once rolled her eyes at his sneakers, who told him not to stand next to her in photos. And now, sitting across from him in this quiet, candlelit kitchen, she looked small, uncertain, human. I don't hate you, Rochelle, he said finally. But I think you liked me better when I was easy to overlook. Tears clung to her lashes, but she didn't let them fall. Maybe I did. And maybe I don't deserve another chance. Brandon stood slowly, grabbing his keys again. Maybe we both deserve better, separately. As he stepped out into the night, the wind hit different. Not cold, just clean, like fresh air after too long in a suffocating room. His phone buzzed, a message from Jonathan. Event this Friday. You're closing the show. Get ready. He smiled. The boy who once wasn't stylish enough was now the finale. The fashion show was being held in an abandoned train station turned high-concept venue. Exposed brick walls, iron beams, cold lights humming above a runway that snaked through the middle like a concrete river. It was bold, industrial, and a little chaotic. Exactly ZBUI's vibe. And Brandon, against all odds, was the main attraction. He arrived early, escorted by Rosemary, who walked like she ran the universe. The place was buzzing, stylists adjusting last-minute seams, models pacing in designer boots, photographers snapping test shots of empty chairs. Brandon took it all in with wide eyes, trying not to show how fast his heart was racing. Jonathan came over, practically glowing. You ready, Mr. Headliner? Brandon smirked. As ready as a former barista can be. Nah, Jonathan said, clapping his back. You're not that guy anymore. The truth was, Brandon had rehearsed for this moment in his head 1,000 times. Not walking the runway, that part still made his stomach twist. But the moment of standing in front of people who once ignored him, now unable to look away. He stepped into his dressing space where the final outfit waited. It was bold, deep, charcoal pants, a black mesh top layered under an oversized metallic silver coat. They handed him chunky boots that looked like they belonged in a dystopian film and a chain to wear across his chest. It felt like armor. As the crowd filed in and the lights dimmed, Brandon stood backstage, breathing slowly, watching the other models take their turns. Then, finally, it was time. The music changed, slower, darker, bass-heavy. His cue. He stepped onto the runway, head high, jaw firm, eyes forward. The lights hit him like lightning. Cameras flashed. And just like that, every step he took wasn't just a walk. It was a statement. About every comment he'd swallowed. Every time Rochelle told him he didn't look good enough. Every moment he felt invisible in his own life. Now, they all saw him. People in the crowd leaned in. A few murmured his name. Editors scribbled notes. A stylist from another brand actually stood to get a better look. Brandon didn't smile. He didn't need to. His walk said everything. When he hit the end of the runway, he stopped, turned, and locked eyes with someone in the front row. It was Rochelle. She was dressed flawlessly, of course. Her hair slicked back into a bun, lips red, phone in hand, filming. Him. Their eyes met for a split second, and in that moment, Brandon could see it. Regret, awe, confusion, maybe even longing, but not pride. Because this version of him, the one commanding a runway, wasn't hers anymore. He turned without breaking stride and walked back down the runway, leaving her behind in the shadows of the audience. After the final model followed and the show ended, the applause erupted. Brandon stood on stage with the others as Rosemary stepped forward and introduced the collection. Cameras flashed like fireworks, and someone grabbed Brandon for an interview within seconds of stepping backstage. Brandon, you've become the breakout face of Zwei's campaign. How does it feel to go from unknown to the headliner? He blinked into the lens, then smiled for the first time that night. Honestly, it feels like I stopped trying to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. And that's when everything changed. After the show, there was an after-party at a high-rise lounge. Brandon went, stayed for the photos and a drink, but slipped out early. He didn't need the noise. He already had his moment. Outside, as he waited for his ride, his phone buzzed again. Another message from Rochelle. I don't know what to say anymore. You were right. I didn't see you. I don't think I deserved you. He stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering. Then he locked the screen without replying. The car pulled up. He climbed in, leaned back, and let himself breathe. Not as the underdressed boyfriend in the background, but as Brandon, the man who the fashion world couldn't stop looking at. The next morning, Brandon woke up late in a hotel suite Zwei had booked for him after the show. He stared at the ceiling for a minute, still unsure if everything that happened the night before was real. His phone was full of notifications, articles, tags, DMs, even a few blue check marks sliding into his inbox. Breakout model Brandon King stuns at Zwei's closing. Walk, the barista-turned-model who shook the fashion industry overnight. Authenticity over aesthetics, Brandon might be the face of fashion's future. It was surreal. He dragged himself out of bed, made some strong hotel coffee, and sat by the window, watching the city breathe beneath him. A part of him wanted to call someone and talk about it, but he didn't even know who that would be. Rochelle? No. That chapter was closed. His phone buzzed again. A different name this time. Rosemary. Congrats, you blew the roof off. Meet me at the studio at 2. We have things to discuss. Brandon showered, dressed in something he actually chose to wear. Clean black tee, loose slacks, the same jacket Jonathan styled him in last week. He didn't feel like he was trying anymore. He felt like himself. At the Zwei studio, Rosemary didn't waste time. All right, big guy, she said, closing the door behind her. You've got 3 offers on the table already. Paris, Seoul, and a denim brand in LA wants you as their campaign centerpiece. Brandon sat, stunned. I haven't even figured out how to walk in dress shoes yet. She leaned over her desk, hands folded. Doesn't matter. The world doesn't care about polish right now. They care about real. And you're the walking definition of it. He exhaled. So, what happens next? You decide, she said simply. Do you want this to be a moment? Or do you want to build something bigger out of it? Brandon didn't answer right away. He remembered those long days at the cafe, blending coffee for people who never saw him. He remembered Rochelle looking through him like he was just a placeholder. I want more, he finally said. Rosemary smiled. Good, because there's a Vogue cover shoot next week, and they asked for you. He blinked. Are you serious? Dead. She paused. And one more thing, you've got a live interview on Friday, the talk room. It's big, we need to prep. Brandon wasn't sure how he was supposed to be interview prepped. He wasn't polished. He said whatever came to mind. But somehow, that was what everyone liked. That night, he walked back through his old neighborhood, just to remind himself where he came from. He passed the cafe. A new guy was working the counter. For a second, Brandon almost walked in, just for a coffee, maybe some nostalgia. Then he saw the sign on the bulletin board near the door. Employee of the Month, Brandon K. Old photo, crooked smile, hoodie, naive as hell. He smiled. Just as he turned to leave, he heard someone call his name. "Brandon?" He turned. It was Jonathan, arms full of shopping bags, glasses tilted on his nose. "You stalking your old life, or what?" Brandon laughed. "Something like that." They walked a few blocks together, the sky dimming into a soft purple. "You ever think about what would have happened if Rosemary didn't walk into that cafe?" Jonathan asked. Brandon nodded. "All the time." "And now look at you." "Yeah," Brandon said, stuffing his hands into his coat pockets. "Now I'm the guy who wasn't stylish enough. Until the world said otherwise." Jonathan smirked. Funny how quickly people change their tune. Brandon didn't say it out loud, but he knew. Some people don't change their tune. They just realize they missed the beat. And now he wasn't, waiting for anyone to catch up. The Friday interview was scheduled for noon. The Talk Room was one of those digital talk shows that blew up during the streaming era. Millions of followers, raw questions, real guests. It was the kind of place where public opinion could make or break someone. Rosemary had warned him. They'll smile, but they want a moment, a slip, a headline. But Brandon didn't feel like he had anything to hide. The studio was minimal, concrete. Floors, warm lights, a low gray couch in front of massive screens. As he walked in, the host, a sharp-witted woman named Dana Pierce, greeted him with a practiced smile. "So, you're the one turning the fashion world upside down," she said. Shaking his hand, he laughed. "I'm just showing up in better pants." The cameras rolled. The crew gave the signal. Dana leaned forward with a grin that said, "Let's see who you really are." "So, Brandon King," she began, "you went from wiping tables in a cafe to walking runways and Vogue covers. When did you know something had changed?" He thought about it for a moment. "The day someone looked at me like I was more, not less." Dana smiled. "That someone being Rosemary?" He nodded. "Yeah, she saw something when I wasn't even looking." "And before that? What about the people in your life? Your girlfriend at the time?" He knew it was coming. Brandon took a breath. "She didn't think I fit in the world she was building. And maybe she was right, because I wasn't trying to. But the truth is, she didn't want me to evolve. She wanted me to stay small." Dana tilted her head. "Oof, that's gonna hurt when she sees this." "She already knows," Brandon replied calmly. "Some people only value you when no one else does. The second the world sees your worth, they panic, because now they have to share what they took for granted." The room was silent for a moment. Dana blinked. Then she smiled wide. "Well, damn. That's a quote." The interview wrapped with applause, a few laughs, and a buzz that followed him all the way out the door. On his way to the elevator, a producer ran up to him. "Dude, the feed's blowing up. You're trending again. Uzi Brandon Kingishim," he laughed. "Of course I am." That night, back at his apartment, he packed. Zwei had booked him a short-term flat in Paris. Paris. Just 6 months ago, he was dodging customers who complained about extra foam in their lattes. Now, he was flying out to headline a campaign across the world. As he zipped up his suitcase, he saw Rochelle's name flash across his phone again. Another message, another paragraph of apology he didn't need to read. He deleted it without opening it. His ride to the airport was early. The city was still half asleep, the streets quiet, the sky a dull gray. But Brandon felt awake. More than he had in years. As the car pulled away, he glanced back at the skyline in the rearview mirror. He wasn't running from it. He was rising above it. At the airport, someone recognized him. "Hey, you're that model, right?" He nodded, adjusting his bag. "Yeah. I guess I am." And just before boarding, Rosemary texted him a photo. It was the Zwei billboard on Times Square. His face, full height, staring down at the world with that same expression that once got him judged, doubted, dismissed. Now it made people stop. He smiled, then turned off his phone. The plane lifted. Brandon didn't look back.